Quick broadcast.
There we go. We're started.
All right. Welcome, everybody. This is Ed Cunningham talking. Thank you for joining our webinar. I'm joined with Jenny Strack and Emily Nolan for today's webinar on online testing. And we've got a lot of people joining, a lot of attendees, and we're excited to kind of showcase not just some of the features that we released over the summer, but kind of online testing in general. Here is a new slide for those of y'all who join our webinars a lot, kind of talking about our recording process. We are recording now, as always, and the recording will be sent to anybody after 24 hours. And you can access all of our webinars through our help, but also if you go to our YouTube channel, which you have the information there, you can access all of our past webinars on our YouTube channel. And so there's that information. I didn't have much more to say for that. I don't know why I paused. So as always, if you have questions, you can go into the window and type it into the chat. While Jenny and Emily talk through the online testing features, I'll be monitoring that and we'll be pausing at a few different times. We're going to try and stay focused on questions about online testing. And so if you have any other topics, please be sure to email us with those questions. All right. So here's our agenda for the day. Most of what we're going to talk about is about the online testing features. We're really excited about some of the stuff that we've been working on over the past several months, especially some things that may be released over the summer. And then we're going to kind of talk generally about some other assessment related things. But before we begin, we have a poll that we want to send out to you guys. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. How are you? We want to know how you're doing. How are you feeling right now? There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on as schools start or postponed. And we're just, we're curious how you guys are doing. We've been talking to some people. Go ahead.
I'm just going to, can y'all see the poll in progress or is that just me?
Oh, sorry. do I need to publish it some kind of way? I'm getting the answers.
Oh yeah, me too.
We're seeing it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if everybody could see it or only us. Anyway, let me move it out of the way. It's like right in the center of my screen here. Okay, there we go.
You know what's cool is if you go into your GIF keyboard and you type in Picard, he has way more than 3 emotions. It's fantastic. If you ever want to check on the people that you work with or your students and you don't want to explain feelings, you can actually use Picard. You can probably get a good 6 or 7 different GIFs of him. And it looks like we have a split between about 55% heads buried in hands.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's about what we feel too.
I hope we don't add to that today.
Yeah.
That's our goal. It's always our goal. Company goal.
All right. So with that in motion, I'm going to go ahead and end that polling. Let's go ahead and get started.
All right, Emily.
Right. So welcome. I'm glad everybody's here. I'm pretty much still one of the newest team members. And so I'm excited to show you what our team has put together for online testing and the new things. We were busy working. So we'll go through them in order and we'll show you bits and pieces of each one of them. And then feel free to ask questions as we go through. So our first feature that we'll just kind of show you the button and where it's located is randomization. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar and asked for and are excited about question randomization. So the teacher or test author of any kind has the option to turn on randomization.
Hold on one second. I got to find the test. Sorry, I'm looking for it.
Okay.
It's under
I can still keep talking while you're getting there.
I'm struggling, people. I'm struggling. I know how you feel. No, on these demo sites, we have like all these different accounts. And so sometimes they get kind of confusing. It's under this one. I remember now. And I didn't create this one, so I don't remember where it is. Right? No?
Are you the social emotional?
Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
Got it.
We created our own little snazzy one we're gonna show you today. So with happy faces, but there's some sad faces too. So as you create a test, it's just on the collection tab or options tab for you to scroll down, and you'll see that you can enable question randomization. So just a couple of clarifying questions that have already come up around this is it will randomize the question and it will randomize the answer choices as well. So great feature. Usually the first question I get asked is, will it randomize and be a unique test for every student? And the very diplomatic answer for that is, it depends on how many questions are on your test. But if you have enough questions on your test, then yes, absolutely. Every student could be seeing a different test order as they go through. Some other clarifying things that teachers usually ask: if I give an online test, then what order will it show up in when I go to review the results? And the answer is, it's going to give you the answers and analyze the way that you created it. So it will go back to the unique way that the teacher created it, although it will look very different for each student. So we are very excited about that. I'll kind of pause a second, see, did any other questions come in about randomization?
So the number one question that I've gotten a couple times now already is about how the data will show up. And so we are absolutely going to answer that. I don't know if you want to do that now or in a minute, but how will the data show up and analyze?
So it will show up based off of your key. So it will follow the teacher key, and it will go back to whatever you put as question number one, then will be question number one when you go to analyze the data.
And the same is true for the student report that they can get it. We're fixing to talk about. The same is true for that. It will revert back to that order that's on your key.
Yes, yeah.
Number one will always be number one where you're concerned, even if number one was number 5 when that particular student took the test. The thing is, if a student logs out for whatever reason and then comes or submits a test, and then you reopen the test for the student and you have randomized on, it would randomize in a different order, or could randomize in a different order if they submitted and then you reopened it.
Yes.
And so if you wanted to give them 2 shots to take a test, number one wouldn't always be number one for that student, but it will always be number one for you. Does that make sense? Okay.
And that's pretty exciting. We did try to think through every angle. So if they get out and come back in, it's re-randomized. So that's pretty exciting too. What it will try to do is prioritize the questions that were completed and put them in the front, and then it will just randomize the questions that were not completed. So
right. Okay. So even on exiting tests, it will do that. Perfect.
Yes. Pretty nifty.
We also have questions around how does randomization work with reading passages where you have the items all tied to a resource, and also the answer choices. How does that work?
Yay, I'm so glad you asked that. The very first thing that my team discovered when we were putting together randomization is that we had to change the way that you create your test. And so now when you are on a test, and Jenny, if you want to show it, you can go to questions. There is an option, if you look to the right where there's a magic little paper clip now next to the pencil, it allows you to link questions to a resource. So after you have a passage or any other resource, you click on this button, a dialog box will appear, and it allows you to link it. This one doesn't have any resources, but it would allow you to check the box for the resource that this question is tied to. So yay, when you do that, it knows to keep the questions tied to the resource. So it knows it has to provide the resource and then can shuffle the questions underneath. And then the very exciting question that we get following this immediately is, can a question be tied to multiple resources? Yes, it can. And so if you are living in paired passage world, you can tie a question to multiple resources. So we do have that option available now.
Also from one of my favorite people in the world, Bonnie. Bonnie is asking, how does this work if some students are taking a test on Scantron and some students are taking the test online with random questions?
So great question. So the only time that that a student will have randomization go into effect is if you are testing online. If you print off a paper copy for a student in a Scantron, it will follow the test order that you created it in. Just like when you go to analyze the data, question number 1 for you is going to be question number 1 for that student. So randomization applies for online testing.
I'm going to show this just because I think some people still don't know it exists. Just there we go. See what I just did? It's just a quick thing.
Mm-hmm.
The sidebar.
Maximize.
There you go. So that gives you a full screen. That is a common question. You can close that summary. Okay, sorry.
Yay. Great questions for randomization. Were there any others we missed before we jump?
We're good for now. Some of these other questions I know you're going to bring up later, so you can go ahead
Okay.
and move on.
Lovely. Okay, the next one I had on our list was lockdown browser. You'll see it right there below question randomization. So you can now enable your lockdown browser feature. This one is going to be very important, and the reason why Jenny is pointing to the little link right underneath it that says go learn more about lockdown browser is in order for this to work, the student has to have the application downloaded onto their device. So it does work multifaceted for all different devices right now, including MacBooks, including Windows, and including Chromebooks. So those are our devices that it works on. And you would have to have the downloaded version on your student device in order for it to work. It will prompt them through on a screen. What will happen is they'll click the test name to take the test just like they normally would, and then this new page will show up saying, do you have lockdown browser? If not, click here to download it. If you do have it and you want to test it, go ahead and click here to test it. And then finally, if you want to go ahead and run your test with lockdown browser enabled, then the student has the option to do that. So you have 3 different ways to download, check, or roll with the test, but it does have to be on the student device. So if, there's lots of questions that always come up around that. If the devices are managed by somebody in-house, they can push it out to the devices. A student can download it if they have the permissions with your devices. So it's all kind of specific to how your district runs things. With that being said, what will happen right now is lockdown browser forces all other applications in Windows to be closed. So it will say, I'm sorry, you can't open this test because you have open Google and you have to close it, and they will be forced to close any other tabs before entering into the test. And then it will lock them into a screen that allows them to only see the testing window. So currently today, the student has the option to exit the test, and it may not be completed. They could come back to the test and finish it, or they could submit the test in lockdown browser and it would be scored. So based on how the test is set up. And so with that, we did already get some feedback from schools that they would love students to be forced to submit their test in lockdown browser. So our team is working on that right now. That's one of our tasks that we are putting together. It'll just be additional little button under here that says force students to submit test in lockdown browser, something to that degree. And you will have the option whether they can get out or they cannot get out moving forward. Another request that I'll go ahead and mention that's come up pretty heavily is for the student to be using Zoom or maybe Google Meet, if that's what you use. Maybe you use Teams, whatever application you use for meetings, for that to be allowed during lockdown browser so that the teacher can be actively monitoring the student as they take a test. My team is also working on that. What it will allow district personnel to whitelist websites that are allowed while lockdown browser is being used. So if you use Zoom, then yay, you enable Zoom to be utilized while you're in lockdown browser, and then that option is available. So I hope if that was a request, you're excited.
Can you talk a little bit?
We are currently working on that.
Can you talk a little bit about, I'm sorry, I talked over you.
No.
Can you talk a little bit about the licensing? Because with some lockdown browser vendors and different software, people have to make additional purchases for the download. Can you talk a little bit about licenses and things like that?
Sure. So as long as you have eduphoria, which I'm assuming you do if you're here, as long as eduphoria is the tool that you use, all the licensing for Lockdown Browser is included. There's no extra expense, even if you're on a Chromebook. That's been a misconception. But even no matter what device you have, as long as you are an eduphoria aware school district, then you have Lockdown Browser and all the licensing that you need.
All right, so we've got a whole lot of questions here, and I think just about all of them will work live. So I just kind of want to run through a little bit of them. Can you talk a little bit more about Chromebooks and iPads, and also student-owned computers versus district-owned computers?
Sure. Okay. So let's start with iPads. That one's easy. So iPads, there's not, we don't currently have an application that will work on an iPad for you to be in lockdown mode. It's just going to be specific to the 3 devices I mentioned earlier: a Windows, a Mac, or a Chromebook. And so with each one of those devices, Chromebook is usually the hot topic one that we get the most questions on. Right now, if your school district has Chromebooks, what they will have to do is whoever is your Google admin for your district, so whoever manages all the magical Google accounts for your district, will have to go in and grab an extension that they push out to all of the student devices. That extension will allow for Lockdown Browser currently. And so I want to give a real quick part 2 to that though, because I just got notice, well, my days blend together, I think like a week ago, that Respondus is the third party that we work with for Lockdown Browser, and they are releasing an application for Chromebooks that will be a lot more seamless for whoever, again, your Google admin is. They can grab this application that will be available within the next month, and they can push that out to all devices. The update with this is that your devices can be non-managed or managed, and you're not forced to go into kiosk mode at your district. So the application will cover all of those. So it should make Chromebooks a lot more seamless moving forward. So again, for districts that are really trying to get on the planning piece, you may want to wait for that application to be available, as I think it will solve a lot of those issues that you're having Chromebook specific. And that sort of covered some of the student device versus district device. So again, depending on how your district has your devices set up, and you may know, if a student can log in and download programs on their computer, then that means that it's open for them to download, in which case they could go download Lockdown Browser themselves and add it to their device. Now, if at your district a student tries to do that and they get a pop-up page that says you must have a user account, username and password to be able to download any application on your device, then that is specifically managed by your district. So a student couldn't do that, and somebody at the district level in your IT department usually would have to push that application out to those devices. So I hope that helps answer those questions.
Yes, I think that answered a lot of those. Can you differentiate between, when you're saying a student's device, are you talking about a student's device that's checked out to the student that is owned by the district, or are you talking about the student's own personal computer?
Well, that's a great question. So it would work on either device. So if it is a student-owned device, they own it themselves, then obviously they have the ability to download whatever applications they need onto it. It would also work on a district device that is checked out to the student. So that would just be dependent on whether the student can download it or whether the district can.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about something I think that is being touched on by a lot of these questions. One of the things that we're very aware of is how...
No pun intended.
Thank you, Jenny.
Every time.
One of the things we're very cognizant of is how incredibly complex right now is in terms of trying to figure out what something like school looks like. And we're concerned about our students, and we're concerned about their well-being, and we're concerned about how much information and learning we're going to be able to get done over the first X amount of time. And we're concerned about how much learning they may have lost over the kind of traumatic last few months and probably traumatic next few months. And one of the concerns top of mind for assessment folks, so just about everybody on this webinar, is how can we help people measure students and measure learning? Mm-hmm. And as a part of that, we think of things like STAR, and we think of things like test security. And so a lot of the questions have been asking how close this version of Lockdown Browser is to something like a secure testing environment that you might have had with STAR. And the answer is not entirely. That's the honest answer. It's not entirely. This was designed, we started working on this project before school shut down and before COVID, with the idea that this is something that you might set up in a computer lab. And now we have the real world concern of what about the student trying to take a test at home? And so later on in this webinar, but I think we're can talk about it now, we were going to talk about a little bit about error score. There is going to absolutely be an error score associated with any attempt to measure learning that you do right now. And the honest fact is there's always an error score associated with every assessment you give, even the pencil and paper test you give right there in the classroom. And wrestling with that error score is the difficult job that I know that all of you are tasked with. And so we're doing everything we can to be responsive to you guys. Please keep the flow of information open between your district and us. Contact your account managers with eduphoria if you have their information. Contact our training at eduphoria.net. Contact us if you have our emails. And keep us informed about what you're working on, because the honest fact is it's new for you and it's new for us. And we want to be helpful to what you're doing, but we don't want to be harmful to what could be done. So with that being said, if you have students interacting with our online testing at home and it looks like STAR, and your concern is that they could pull it up on their cell phone while they're taking the test on a device, I'm not 100% sure that is the best test to give right now. And I don't know the answer to what is the best test to give. And so that's me just kind of wrestling with these thoughts out loud, because I want you to know that we're aware of them too. So with that being said, we do need to kind of move on past some of these security questions, but we'll try to stay on afterwards to answer some more if they come up. If that's okay. Because we have some other questions that are real specific to the security of Lockdown Browser, and I'd like to kind of focus on some of the other things and then come back to it if that's okay.
Great. Perfect. Okay, the last one that we'll talk about under this same little window is student summary. And what this allows you to do, you'll see right now it's grayed out. So this test author doesn't have the ability to turn it on. But if somebody at your district level goes to the configure test type and turns this feature on for you, then it will go from being grayed out to enabled. So I just want to make sure that you know we put in an extra security measure for this new feature. And the reason being, it is pretty powerful. It answers one of the questions I saw that came up. This feature allows a teacher to decide, especially if the use of an assessment is formative, or the world that we're living in, you really just want to know, what do students know? It will allow the student to see if they missed an answer choice or if they got an answer choice correct. And so when this is available, our student will submit the assessment and it will be scored. Then they will have the option under a testing guide to go through and see, okay, on question number 1, I got that one correct. There's a green check mark there. Yay for me. On question 2, I got that one wrong. I put B, but it does not give them the correct answer at that point. They just know that B is incorrect for them. So we really tried to open this door. This was a passion of mine. My background is working with schools that are under the improvement required lens. And so that's where I always come from in my mindset of we really need to give the students the opportunity to then go through all the resources we give them and to be able to give us feedback and say, okay, I understand why answer choice B is correct or incorrect, and here's all the rationale as to why. And so this feature opens up the door for students to be able to really go back and review content and then resubmit an answer choice if that's what the teacher chooses to do. If not, we have a feature I'll show you in just a little bit, a notepad option that students could go in and then take notes that the teacher could view to see what their revisions are for the test. So why did you not pick the right answer? Here's the rationale. Here's 3 rationale as to why A had to be correct instead of B.
Right.
So and this option really opens the door, but we didn't want you to accidentally turn this on for a district assessment and oopsie, now they can see all of the answers and provide them to their friends, unless it really was meant to be that type of test.
Perfect. Do you want to see it, or do we want to show the window yet?
Yeah, I think we're ready.
Okay,
Sure.
perfect. So that is your answer, guys, to how do you do test corrections for online tests? That's a question we get all the time in the trainings. How do I have students do test corrections? Well, that student summary, answer summary is how you do that now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So very, very powerful feature that we're very excited about. Districts that I've worked with and talked to about in researching this were just very, very excited about the potential, especially in this environment. So if a student, did you want to go ahead and just submit it?
Well, do you want to talk about color?
Yeah, let's talk
and
about
all that
those
first. Okay. Perfect.
Yes, let's do that first. So while Jenny's logged in as a student now, so I'll go ahead and quickly go over some of the new features we have as well. We did try to mimic what students will see on STAR as much as possible. And so now you can see that there is the ability to change the background. So color contrast, they can change the overlay, they can change the text. So if they have a need, we mimicked everything that TEA currently has available to enhance that. So those options are there for them. Right next to it, you have zoom in and zoom out. So you can zoom in on a question to make it larger, and you can zoom back out. So again, we always get the question, how much can you zoom in and how much can you zoom out? And in a lot of cases, that's very dependent on some of the images, your screen. There's a lot of specifics to that. But we did create this so that it does enhance what the students are viewing quite a bit right now. And then you'll see add note. And this is the feature I was just talking about. It pops, you may have to scroll down.
I think it may be popping up underneath my presentation window. This happened this morning too.
Oh, okay.
So it's there, but because we're presenting in a Zoom meeting, it's popping up like underneath something.
Yay.
Yeah.
So imagine, if you will, there's this gorgeous new note option,
Right.
and it's hovering over the screen.
I was like, I can show a screenshot. Darn, I feel like that was one of my features that who would have known you would get so excited about a notepad, but I do feel like I gave birth to that one and I'm real proud of it. Who would have thought, right? But the notepad feature pops up in the bottom right underneath where that neutral and different is where it would pop up. And the student can then start typing out their notes for the question. This is a great piece for if you're saying cite text evidence for me, follow certain criteria that you have set up for them answering questions with strategies. Yay, they can document it here in this note. The great part about it is when a teacher is in proctoring, in that proctoring window that Jenny was just in, they can view the student notes live as they are occurring. So it will show up and show you that, hey, Johnny has notes for question 2, 3, and 4. So the teacher can actively go look at that. There's a less than 2-second delay on those. Yay. So that's pretty exciting that they can see it live as it is occurring. The other piece that I can demo at the very end, of course, if we have time, is that we are going to also have these notes available in Enter Answers. So my team has worked hard to update the Enter Answers interface where teachers score the test or score open-ended questions, and you can see the notes there as well. So that's pretty exciting that they live in a couple of different places right now.
Perfect. Let's submit.
Any notes overlay, and then we did add spelling assistance as well. So if you turn this on for a student, if they are typing out either in the notepad or in an open-ended response, then it will give them spelling assistance.
And that's an embedded support. Yes, that has to be managed either through. We'll look at how to manage those. I think
right after this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And text to speech as well. So the text to speech piece that we added, that was exciting. We added 2 things. One is that you can have text to speech in Spanish now. That's an option for you to turn on Spanish for text to speech, as well as a Spanish interface, which changes the buttons at the top to Spanish. So rather than color theme, it would give you the Spanish translation. And we enhanced the text-to-speech options so that there are more control mechanisms. You can slow it down and you can speed it up. So we had limited options before, and now we have enhanced those quite a bit. So that is also exciting. Jenny's already brought up the score summary, so we'll go ahead and look at this. The students submitted their feelings about how they're doing at the beginning of the year, and now they can see, unfortunately for this, that they missed each one of the questions. And so as they go through, they see that, oh, I missed it. If this were an actual test, of course, then I didn't get the correct answer. So they could go through and review those as well. And if you're wondering how long will this be available for a student to go through and review their answer choices, it's as long as the testing window is open, or if it is a teacher test, until they archive the assessment. So it will show up right there under that second block, select a test to review. That will be where it's located now until either that testing window is closed or the test is archived.
So that's what it looks like. Yep.
I want to clarify some things on the English and the Spanish.
Okay.
The test has to be written in English or written in Spanish.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll give you kind of an example of how it might work. Let's say you write a test in English and you have Spanish text to speech on. It will still read the English words, but when it gets to like a number, it'll say the number in Spanish. And vice versa for if you have the test written in Spanish, but you have the English text to speech on. And so we're not actually translating any of the text. The text to speech reader is, it's actually powered by Amazon Polly. And so the text to speech reader can be a native English speaker or a native Spanish speaker in order to do a better job of reading the words.
Thank you, Ed. That helps. We got the notepad. Look, there's a notepad.
There we go.
So there's that exciting piece. So it does grow as a student starts typing. The box gets larger. It does let you know that the note has been saved. And now as they go through the test, they can choose which questions to turn the note feature on and make notes for. There it is. And there's your feedback that the student's struggling with that, which is more powerful than them putting in a guess, is knowing that they are struggling and don't understand. So we are very excited about that. While Jenny, go ahead and talk really quick just about, we have this new test proctoring bar at the top where it says not started and graded. Right now that doesn't look super snazzy, but what that does is it works too. It's in real time, that as a student gets into a test, it's going to show you if they're active. It's going to show you if they have completed the assessment. So the teacher has more power in just viewing the screen and seeing where students are within the test. So we did update that feature as well, which we are excited about. All right, did I miss any questions? Are we good to go on to how we can manage those embedded supports?
Yeah, actually managing supports, we're starting to get some questions about those, especially if you
Great.
could talk a little bit about how managing Spanish versus English might work, how they work together, that sort of thing.
Okay, beautiful. So there's there's actually three options when you turn on a student support. Jenny went to the first one, which would be someone with the specific access could upload a document with student supports in them at one time and associate them with all the students that are in the actual report itself. So you could knock out students that need support in one file and go ahead and attach what supports are needed. And then that would be kind of a one and done thing, which is magical and very nice on time. So that would probably be the most ideal way to turn on embedded supports. However, if a teacher goes and searches for a student, they can turn them on that way as well. And so you'll see them at the top there. So you see by subject area, what supports do the student need? Text-to-speech, content clarifier, spelling assistance, Spanish. What the Spanish will do right here and why we kind of left it open as Spanish is it is just a tool that when you click Spanish right here, it will allow the interface to be written in Spanish. So if you have a true native speaker who needs Spanish, when they take an online assessment because they don't know what notes means, they can't read the English version, then you would enable that Spanish option right there. And again, that changes the interface for them. If the test is still written in English, then they're still going to see the English version of the test. This just changes the buttons in online testing so that they are translated. And the translation for that, we took the exact translation from what TEA had. So we did have some dispute on the word choices, but we followed what TEA released for their Spanish translation as well. So hopefully that helps with that piece. I think that covered those elements of that question. So you would want to make sure that what I would do for a student or a group of students that want Spanish is I would create a completely separate Spanish test, title it with Spanish somewhere in the title so that I knew that this was the Spanish version, and then make sure that it's active for the students who really need that Spanish. And also if they need the interface, you can double check here to make sure that that Spanish interface is turned on, just so you have everything ready to go. Here's the last option. If you're getting ready to give an assessment and you realize, oh no, Neil doesn't have his text-to-speech on, you can click on supports and you can go ahead and turn on text-to-speech or any of the other options as you're about to give the test. So you can also turn those on actively right before the assessment is given. All right, did that help? Hopefully that helped with those pieces. So,
Are there questions, Ed?
There are a lot of questions.
Sorry, I know you have your hands
No,
full.
this
Ed's the only person answering questions right now, so be patient.
There's some really, really good questions in here, and I've been answering them. They're also very specific. I haven't seen too many that need to be answered for everyone, because you're kind of covering a lot. I will say that this is going to be kind of related to my last kind of extended speech that I gave. We're going to be needing some feedback from you guys over some of this stuff, especially as it relates to the testing environments that we can't predict necessarily right now. We're trying to predict the best that we can. And so we're getting a lot of questions kind of related to the nuances about how these work. And one of the things I would highly recommend that you do is, if you get the time, create a fake test and log in as a student and just kind of like take the test and see what some of these things do. You can actually, I said log in as a student. In the little preview button, you can actually see what a lot of this stuff does just by, as the test author. If you go to that administration tab, you can actually see what a lot of this stuff does just in that preview. But then if you want to experience the full thing as a student, it might be helpful to go through some of that or to watch some of our videos online. People are asking questions about how calculator works with all of this. The answer is yes. The calculator works. How does it work? The same way it should. This is not the same as the calculator that is turned on just as a support for some students. This is the aware test calculator, the one that you turn on for the whole test or turn off for the whole test, and you can make it basic or you can make it scientific. It's not the full calculator feature for just some students and not others. We are exploring that. You can turn supports on for people once they've started the test. So the way that might look, student starts the test, they're supposed to have text to speech. It's not turned on for the student. If you, as the test proctor, turn on text to speech, then when the student goes to the next question, it loads with text to speech. And then they have to go back to the one they were on to get that one. But the student actually doesn't even have to log out for you to be able to turn it on in the middle of a test. So those are the types of things that you can do.
They just need to refresh.
Yep.
You just have to hit the refresh.
Content clarifiers is not available yet. And I wish I can give you a time for when those will be out, but we kind of got held up on our progress in developing certain things with all the craziness going on. And so content clarifiers has kind of been punted down the road just a little bit for us to work on them because we want to make sure that they're right. However, you can manage content clarifiers now just so you don't have to go back in and remanage later. So that actually might be confusing. I can go in and check the box that says this kid is supposed to have a content clarifier, but the kid can't actually use the content clarifier in our online testing. But you can still manage that now. Let's see, what else do we have? There are ways to report on supports. So if you're an administrator and you're logged in and there's actually a report in the reports little button. Are you logged in as an admin? No, you're the teacher right now. The admin can actually go and generate a report in the Analyze tab that will actually pull up who has what supports. It's just in the reports, just like any other. No, down there.
Sorry.
You're all right.
Report. I was thinking under the edit button because they can show data on how a student did with a certain support versus, without.
That's right. That's right. You can see the support that was used by the kid, and then here you can just pull up a report for what each kid has turned on for them. Let's see.
So if you want to know how that works, what I was talking about, it's literally just under the edit button. There is a student support, local student support status or local online supports folder, and you can pull those over.
Yep.
And it's going to give you a percentage of students who has it when you look at summaries, but when you look at individual students, it's going to tell you yes or no for whether or not they had it as a default, but whether or not they used it on this assessment. And so what's nice about that is I have a student who doesn't have text to speech, but I think they may benefit from text to speech. And so I give them a test using text to speech. I then can show data of improved performance. I mean, obviously you'd want to do it more than once, but of improved performance or declined performance with or without text to speech. Because this field is going to be specific to whether or not they had it on that specific assessment administration.
Yeah. And in terms of managing this, a campus or a district level person is able to manage who has supports. Teachers can only manage it at the test level. The teacher, just like Jenny was saying, the teacher can say, this kid, we're going to try them on a support or actually try taking the support away from them for this test. The administrator is the one who saves the default setting for each student.
Yeah, and they can do it again 2 places in that file, the upload student support status file, because this is principals of campuses can manage it at the campus level or district administrators at the district level. And then they can also manage it at the individual student level. So a teacher can view what's in this box, but they can't change what's in this box. An administrator can actually change the default for one student at a time. And that comes in handy because sometimes, you've uploaded a file with, all 400 of your kids, and then you have an ARD for 3 kids, right? And so then the support status might change for 3 students, and you don't want to do a new file for 3 kids. You can just go to those 3 kids' profiles and change the support status here.
We did have another good question that came in regards to the student score summary, for them to be able to see their answers. Can you turn that on after the test has been given, and then the student can then go back in and review the answer choices? And the answer is yes, you can. So the student could take the test, not see them at the end. Maybe you wait till every test has been submitted. I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you turn that on, and then every student has the ability to go back in and see the results.
Yeah, that's a good.
You can absolutely do that.
Good suggestion.
Great question. Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's a little workaround for security. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Perfect. See, somebody's playing chess, not checkers.
I know. Thank you. I forgot who said that. We really appreciate you. That was a good one. I like that one. Otherwise, I think we've gone through a lot of ours. I've been trying to help answer questions as well. Oh, we did have one that just came in about test hound supports. And yes, we are working with Test Hound to get supports uploaded and aligned. And so we have currently come to an agreement with them and started working as a team. And so we are just finalizing the import file right now and getting all the T's and I's ready to go so that you can import a file that works with Test Hound. So yes, also exciting news.
Whoops, sorry, I just skipped to the wrong slide. My toolbars are all on top of each other. So we wanted to talk a little bit about here at the end, students' well-being. And I'll kind of let Ed take the lead on that, social and emotional health of kiddos and what we're thinking about, in Aware in terms of that.
Yeah, so we've been showing an online test that had "How are you feeling?" and some emoji, which is a survey. That's not even a multiple choice. I mean, it's a multiple choice question, but that's a survey. And the student who were to answer this survey there's no right answer, although technically eduphoria collects a right answer. This is a way that we were just kind of playing around, showing how you might be able to use online testing for the student to click on the thing and log in and take the test. But really, they're not taking a test. They're answering a question about how they feel. We're actually working on some documentation to support this, to show how you might even be able to use student forms in Aware to follow up if you're finding that you have students that are maybe consistently showing that they're worried or anxious and things like that. This is not the ultimate, I mean, this is a completely unvetted survey. So we mean to show this as an example. We know, kind of like what I was saying earlier, we know that at this time, you're not just concerned about what do the kids know and how prepared are they for, 4th grade math, but honestly, just how are they doing? And while Aware is designed to collect results tied to, say, 4.3b, Aware can absolutely be used to track other things about students, especially through student forms. And while nobody has the capacity to create an individual student form for 160 kids that they might teach or something like that, they might be able to check in on a few kids. And we know that those are the kinds of things that people are concerned about. And so we're going to be creating some materials for you guys to set up for that. As it relates to testing, though, one of the things that we are curious about is what types of testing are you considering for using at the start of school? We know that there's an optional beginning of the year assessment from TEA. And we know that people give released star all the time in our system, although I have publicly questioned that practice even in a regular year. We need to get an idea of what our kids know and what are y'all kind of thinking about in terms of collecting that information. And so I'm seeing a lot of results come in.
This is like a multiple choice question that nobody knew the answer to. That's exactly what this looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all over the board, and I think it just speaks to the current environment of education. You know,
Yeah.
people are just really unsure about how to tread this ground. I think our point in bringing up this about social and emotional health is if students are at home and the person who has daily contact with the student at home from the district is the teacher essentially becomes the gatekeeper for the counselor. You know, where normally a counselor could reach out to a student directly. I think they can still do that, certainly, but they won't know to do that unless the student, is on their radar.
Right.
And so something like this, just simple assessment. How are you feeling today? If a kid consistently says sad or concerned, maybe that means it warrants, notification to the counselor to check in. Maybe we add that to, as a PBIS support or an intervention for a student who might be in trouble at home. So.
All right, so I'm going to end the polling here, and
And
what you said, Jenny, is exactly right. We're looking at the results here, and we've got 30% unsure and 30% something like a local administration of a district or campus created tests. Those are almost even, and just below that is some sort of test or inventory from another vendor. Those seem to be the most popular results there. I'm going to go ahead and just throw out, I'm glad to see that local administration of STAR is on the lower end here. I think that might be a bit heavy for right now. And anybody who wants to talk about that, please contact us, because I do, the local administration of a test may be one of the more valid ways of checking in with students. Hey, we had some questions. These are the things we think we can draw conclusions from. So we want to ask these things and only these things. And it's not a big deal. It's a small deal. Those are the kinds of things I think might have the more positive impact on getting this year started with students without being too heavy. And so this is thank you for these results. One of the things we kind of want to end with is just what's going on with y'all, which obviously we don't have time for, and we don't mean for that to be established in this webinar. But one of the things we want to kind of open the door for is as you guys try to solve some of the new problems just generated from this school year, as you try to solve problems related to anything in and around assessment, but also some of the other things that are done through our products, Strive and Forethought, for example. You can use FormSpace to send out forms and surveys to people, those kinds of things. As you try to solve these problems, please let us know what you're working on. Please let us know if you have successes with any of them. Please let us know if you have any questions about them. Please let us know if you just want to know, hey, do you think this will work? Because one of the things that we can't do is we can't anticipate what some of these problems and issues and concerns are going to be. And so if you guys could let us know either by contacting our support line or contacting one of the eduphoria employees that you know that you maybe have an email with, and just let us know some of the things that you're trying to do. Not only can we maybe work with you and try to find a solution, but if somebody somewhere in some corner of Texas has a thing that works really well, that we have a platform we could share to other eduphoria users across the state, that could benefit everybody. Everybody's recreating the same wheel right now because there's no, this is the one way to do it. And so I wanted to open the door for y'all, as I guess the short version of everything I just said. Please let us know what we can do to help. And that's it for the content of the webinar. We do have some things coming through in terms of questions, so we might be able to stay on a little bit to answer some of these. And I have trouble ending stuff, so I'll just say the word period.
Let's see if we have another slide. I'm not sure. Do we have another slide? There we go.
Okay.
Oh, how can I receive announcements? So in our help section, there is a section for announcements, and then how can I receive announcements? And then when you click on that, it says register here, I think, and then this window pops up and you register for it. That's how you get our emails about these webinars and about upcoming releases. since you are registered for this webinar today, most of you are probably already receiving announcements. So I think that's it. Good luck this year. Oh, we're offering you good luck this year. We probably should change that message. Good luck. That's nice. We all feel it. We all feel it. I know that y'all feel it more than we do, but we all feel it. Okay, so questions, are we going to stay on and do that?
We got most of them done. They wanted to see inner answers and we ran out of time. So,
Oh, okay. I can show it real quick. I can do it real quick. We're here. I mean, I've got tests available up.
Well, the new one won't be in there. I would have to bring up mine.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it will be great. Inner answers will be fabulous. Be excited.
Can you re-show the YouTube channel? Can you pull that slide back up?
Oh, I can.
I think it was like this third slide, maybe.
This one?
The third slide had the YouTube channel. I don't know if this one does. Maybe.
Oh, there we go. There we go. You can also get to that from our help section. There is a training and webinars link, and in the help section, or a box that you can click on that says training and webinars. And when you click on that, there's a link for our YouTube channel. All right. We good?
I think so. Thank y'all. Thank everybody.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a good afternoon.
Bye. Thanks.